All right, you guys. So here's a little thing for you of why this thing was jimmy-jammying around a little bit. Besides everything being at the goofy angles that I showed you, here's what was being put together for your control arms. I'll set it right there. And yes, there's a bend in it. That is what was actually in the control arms all the way around this bad boy. This is what you should have in it. If I can actually balance the thing right. There you go. That's what should be in it. This is a 3/8 bolt. That's a 1/2-inch bolt. Don't just throw in some junk just to get it into the car. Your rear end is going to shift all around and create big time problems in the drive shaft, in your wheels inside the wheel wells, and just don't do it, you guys. Put in the right hardware. And this is what we're going to start with for our standalone nitrous setup. This is a 1-gallon Rhodes race cars fuel cell. Biggest thing that you got to do is get this bad boy, and then let's figure out where we're going to put it. Just to give you guys a rough idea, it's going to sit right here on the driver's side. This is pretty much where your windshield wiper fluid reservoir used to be. Here is what we got. I had to trim off this tab on this side because I was hitting the inner fender well. You can see where it was just scratching the bejeebies out of it. Now those 2 holes up there are going to be my top 2 holes there. I have this strap that's going to go down this side, which is going to get bolted onto there, come down and make contact. And then besides that bolt, I'm going to have another bolt that's underneath here that this is going to actually bolt onto the fender as well. So this will be double bolted and then down into here. So that should tighten that up pretty well. Again, it's only a gallon that's going in there. So I'm going to get that buttoned up, and I'm going to show you what that's going to look like here pretty quick. All right, so we got the fuel cell all mounted and in. She's good to go. As you can see, she's not going anywhere. You can see where I have it bolted, and then I got my strap right there. I got my strap on. It's just a Jegs fuel filter that has a Holly black pump. It's just one that I had here at the barn. If you guys are trying to copy this, you don't need to run a Holly black. You can be perfectly fine and get away with like a Holly blue or something that's in that area. You'll be fine. And still being able to do the entire system for $500 or less, you'll be all right. So, what else did I do that you guys haven't seen? I got the hoses on, all that's hooked up because I wanted to get that done. Regulator for the nitrous is right there. I also made a nice little bracket over here for the regulator for the motor itself. Painted the firewall. I didn't paint up top, but I painted the firewall, polished out the master cylinder. That's looking pretty, so pretty. And then frames painted, inner fender wells are painted. This, the wiring is still blah. But from what it was, she's looking a whole lot better. I think Joe's going to be happy here. We are going to work on installing a line lock. So for you guys that don't know about it, well, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown. Now, you might be asking, what is the old man doing up there? When Joe ended up having the car painted, or when he painted this thing, for whatever reason, that top section by the sunroof, he never painted it black or white or whatever. So right now, that is maroon. So the old man is masking that off, and then he's going to paint it black because you can see all the trim on the car is painted black. But anyways, let's talk about a line lock. So this is super simple, guys. This is just a Summit brand line lock. It's basically a rip-off of the Hurst roll control. Now, for you guys that, how do you hook these things up? They're super, super simple. All we're going to do is we're going to disconnect from our master cylinder, and then there's 3 setups down along here that you can choose whatever way that you want just for an easier access. Then there's a top port. That top port is going to reconnect, and that's what's going to hold your pressure. Now, we're just going to take this line off, hook it up to one of these 3. I'm choosing this far one out here. And then all we're going to do is, now that'll run down to the proportioning valve, just specifically for the front brakes. Then this port here will get connected to here. That's it. That's your whole hookup. And then a positive and a negative, and that's it. So the point of it is, it's going to come into here, the pressure's going to run, you're going to push your brake down as hard as you can like you're doing a panic brake. Hold that, click your button down, release the brake. Now the pressure's stuck inside here, but the back brakes can spin. Now we can do big smoky burnouts. So I'm just gonna hook up these lines, do a little bit of cleaning up, and that is it for a line lock, you guys. It's that simple.
You said smoky.
Smoky. It's so smoky. And that, my friends, is how we hook up a line lock. That way, if you want to do some smoky burnouts. What's that? You want to do some? You want to do some smoky burnouts? Hook up the line lock so we can do some smokies. So, anyways, so again, like I said, I'm just going to repeat it. This was here. Now it's on the side. Our main line is just going in. Going to the master cylinder. Guys, that's it. Positive, negative. Just ground this to the body of the frame. This goes to your switch source. You're done. And you're going to be ready to do some smoky burnouts. Yeah, let's do some smokies. Get that thing. Get that thing. Nick's working on trying to get the door latch to work over there. Well, it's not necessarily the door latch. He's trying to get the door panel off, and he's fighting.
Who says I was?
There we go. Now, how the hell did they have that thing on there?
The clip was bent.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
That's not how a clip goes in there.
No.
So it was bent. It was in there by tension. You can see where, if I can get this thing out, it was, look at it. The splines were eating into it.
Well, yeah, you got chunks of it falling off onto your lap.
So it was just installed improperly. But
Well, now you can get the door frickin' panel off.
hopefully.
Well, what was going on? Well, you couldn't open. If you guys remember from the first one I showed you here, you couldn't get yourself out of the car. So we're thinking maybe the rod itself that goes to the door latch is off, or it doesn't even have one and it's not even connected. So
It's in there.
it is in there.
Yeah,
Like I say, you could hear it rattling around.
You can't get it.
There we go.
I'll lay this down. So I'll make the flash.
Oh yeah.
You see it in there?
Mm-hmm.
So it's this guy right here. There we go.
There it is.
Yeah, so
Buried way at the bottom.
I actually, it's the same clip as mine. So I have extras.
It's always nice to be able to get out of the car from the inside.
You think?
All right, so I'm going to give you here a little update. It's been a couple of days since the last one here. Monte Carlo is now up on the lift. Old man's car is down on the ground now, and we have it up on jack stands. There's a reason why. But all the fuel stuff I have done on the Nitrous system, so we're good to go. I'm going to show you that here in a second. But I'm sure you guys probably would have been like, man, the whole shop just rearranged in 5 seconds. Well, it's been a few days. We ended up getting the cars all certified. I wasn't going to show you guys that. I mean, if you want to see it, I can show it to you. But we got the cars certified. Schuler's now is ready to rock and roll. He's an 850 cert. You can see the big bad blown 496 in the background. We were so excited to get that up and running. And then I got my car certified. That's all good to go. And then we were doing the old man's red car. This one needs bars. I was so surprised. But when the old man bought this car, it was already a done finished car. When we got it here, we instantly stripped it. It was an all steel front end, doors, and we put on all of the fiberglass, painted the car. And if you guys haven't followed the build of this car, please go back in the library, go check it out. But it was like a grayish white interior, so we painted all that and did everything. Well, one of the things that happened was we ended up popping the sticker off, and we were going through getting this certed, and we have to put in some bars that are going across. So that's why you see the old man walking in. He's coming in to get this stuff going. So we got to put a bar up front, and we got to put some diagonal bars underneath the floor in this thing as well. And then she'll sert out, and then it'll be A-OK. And now on the Monty, what you guys haven't seen is we got the transmission on the car and drive shafts out, working on pulling the rear end out. And with this, we ended up just kind of muscling it down and putting it on the cart. Well, why don't you use a transmission jack? Well, there's the transmission jack. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to weld this thing up. The previous shop that we were in before the barn here, where it's got 14-foot ceilings, were like 9 or 10-foot ceilings. So we ended up chopping that thing off. So we took this big old monster chunk off. Well, now you try to slide it underneath the car, and you have to use a bunch of like railroad slabs to make it to where you can actually use it, and don't want to do that. So I'm going to weld this thing up. My boy William came in and chopped it down and ground it and got it ready for me, and then he had to go to work. So this is all ready. We pulled the transmission down yesterday, like I said, and we got it there, and I thought, me and the old man aren't going to try to muscle it back up. We're going to use a tranny stand. So I'm going to weld this up. This is something that we have been needing to do for a long time. So there's all my welds. See what's going on. So we're good. She ain't going nowhere. But when we had to change out the transmission, when I had the 555 nitrous motor in the black Camaro, we had to use this little cart because we weren't using this. We would use this little cart, and I would throw down wherever the heck they are, but like railroad slabs, like 1 foot, wide railroad slabs. I'd stack those up, put the transmission on top of it, slide it underneath like this, and then we'd take the whole lift and we'd lower the lift down onto the transmission. Then I would sneak my big butt underneath here trying to wiggle the transmission in. All because we just didn't have this 1 foot section down here, and it was at the main shop, our work. And it was down there, and it's like, we got to bring it. So you're talking like 2 years of going, man, we got to bring that down here eventually. So finally we brought it down. Now it's underneath. Now we can actually use the transmission jack that has been in this barn for probably 5 years, and we've never really used it. Today's the day, you guys. Today's the day. So I am going to switch out this torque converter. I have already pulled out the old one. That's this guy. This is just some off-the-shelf, off-brand torque converter that the guys threw in it just to get it to work, and it worked okay. That was about a 35 to 3800 stall, if I'm remembering right. So what we got now is this Summit brand converter. As you can see, it's got a billet front cover. They're supposed to be good for, anti-ballooning plates, billet front cover. They're supposed to be good to like 850 horse or 850 foot-pounds of torque, more likely probably torque. And this one again is 28 to 3200. Yes, we're doing a 331. Wouldn't you want a little looser converter to get into the power range of the motor a little better? Think more it's going to be street use. We're just going to have some fun going down the track, but I know Joe's going to use it more on the street. And you're never going to lock the converter up with a 331 and a 3800 stall. So, plus that one's not set up for nitrous. That is some cheap $250 converter. We're still going smart, but this is cheap. If you try to do a good nitrous converter from, say, Cone, Neil Chance, Transmission Specialties, FTI, whoever you want to pick, a good place, you're going to be low side 1200 to as much as what I'm doing on that thing of, say, 26, 2800. But you're going to be, say, $1,500 in a converter. The Summit ones you can get into for around $650. So you're spending some money. But I've ran these converters before, or I've ran them twice. This will be the third time, and had good luck with them. Honestly, I've had good luck with them. For more power than this, the most I've ever actually used with this was what? 500 horse 355 with a 200 shot, so 700 horse, and it worked it worked fine. It worked perfect. So that's what we're going to throw in here. I'm going to get that put on, try to get everything switched around, and we're going to try to get that transmission Whoop, back in the car. Just a little side note for you guys. I'm hooking up the torque converter bolts right now, as you can see right there. But that is a 3/8 bolt that I'm using. What we do not want to use is a 5/16 bolt. And then we start having it literally, as you can see, ream the hole out. Now, what I'm going to show you is a 3/8 bolt. That's how much I can move that around. That converter before was just tearing this thing up. So, luckily this, let me get the flashlight here. The torque converter will do a 168 or a 153 tooth. And those right there that it was connected to, I mean, you can still see all the witness marks of it laying on there, up in here. That was on the 153. So I went to the next size out, and the holes are fine and all that stuff, but you might not get lucky enough to have that type of setup on it. Do not run a 5/16 hole when it's very obvious, or bolt, when it's very obvious that it's a 3/8 bolt that's supposed to be inside that hole. You're going to ream the living snot out of your flex plate, and if you don't put Loctite on them, the bolts are going to loosen up. You know, it's just a beginner's mistake. We've all done it. But put a little bit of red Loctite on there, tighten them up pretty good, torque them down, move on to the next. Torque converter bolts are something that you should periodically check, especially if you're taking your car to the track and racing it. Going over your nuts and bolts and making sure things are tight is a good thing to do. So I had to tighten up the top bolts on the transmission. Figured I'd show you guys what's going on with the nitrous fuel system, and this is all complete, done. You can see where I came out, 90 straight down. I made this nice little bracket that I ended up welding onto the frame. Let me get around the car for you here. Ended up just welding that to the frame. That way it was a nice straight shot coming down. I ran in between what used to be for the power steering, but ran in between there. Regulator on the block. Then we're right there. And that's where we're going to end up pulling fuel pressure from. So from this point, including the regulator, the fuel pump, everything, you guys should be able to do it for about 500 bucks. Maybe a little less if you want to find like a used Holly Blue pump. All right, so next on the list, we're getting this rear end yanked out of this bad boy. Come to find out that this thing is probably about 11-inch drums, and me and the old man were sitting here yapping about it, and a stock 12 bolt, like out of Schwell Monte Carlo, well, that's going to have about a 9-inch. These are 11. I'm thinking this came out of a station wagon, most likely. That would explain the gear ratio, plus why you got these big monster drums on it. But I got a couple of the bolts cracked loose, but I'm kind of bouncing back and forth here. We are still working on getting those bars put in. I'll show you those bars. I'm going to crawl underneath right now, weld up a couple. I'll show you where we're at on the old man's ride. One of the things that Joe was telling me that he was having a problem with was that it felt like the rear end was shaking and moving around. Okay. I just lowered it down. That's it. I've just lowered it down and took the springs out, took the shocks out. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. There is no nut on that side. And that is probably a 5/16 bolt. Now, here's the other fun part. Now on this side's got it. It's finger tight. And you can probably see the size of the nut on that. That is more like probably a 3/8 or a 7/16 bolt. So what does this all mean? You have nothing tight on that side, and you're putting a bolt in that's smaller than the size of the hole that it's supposed to be in. Things are going to shift. I think I found out what's going on. So this right here, that is the difference in the angle. That's where the control arm wants to sit, and how hard the rear end was getting twisted over. Your bottoms are still sort of in location, but it's the same twist. If you guys know what rear end this is, I'd love to know, but like I said, I'm thinking this is a station wagon rear end, but me and Nick are going to get this bad boy out. We're going to put the 12 bolt in it the right way. Okay, guys, to boil your noodle a little bit more, this is a wheel spacer. It goes 4.5, 4 3/4, then you go on 5. If I go here, there's your 4 3/4. Here's where the fun part kicks in. I was told this was a 4.5. It's not. That's a 5 on 5. This might be out of a truck. That's what these guys are trying to figure out over here. We're just kind of running through it. It's like this might be out of a truck. What'd you find?
C10 truck.
Maybe a C10, 67, 72. Might be wrong. Somebody else can correct me.
Okay, so for the bars that we needed to do on the old man's car, you see this one here and how it ties in all the way there. You can see how it's got quick releases on it and it ties in all the way at the other side. That was what we had to do. And then underneath, you see that diagonal bar that got welded in from there all the way down. That wasn't in the car as well. So had to put that stuff in. And then I still, I would say probably right about somewhere in here, I'm going to have to put his seat bar. That'll connect from there to there. This is all just for impact, you know, like on the side of the car, coming from here. If he puts it in somewhere, there's nothing to hold this from collapsing. So that's why we had to do the rocker bar all the way across. And then you can see that long diagonal there. We'll put the seat bar in. And then, the last ones are these guys. If you look at the funny car cage, that cage right there, it does not make contact to the ladder bar. So I have to do 2 bars that are back, right about there, that go straight down from that bar to the 4-link bar. And then, the old man's ready to rock and roll. So we're still wrapping that stuff up. I'm still getting the rear end in the hot rod here. So I just wanted to kind of show you guys that just to see, you know, where we're at and how things are moving along in the old man's car. So you can see we got those competition engineering shocks in there. 12 bolt is in. The BMR upper and lower control arm kit is in. It's a tubular upper and then it's a boxed lower. Now these are non-adjustable. It's a great setup. It's a huge upgrade from what you normally would have. Now, not being adjustable, there's going to be other ways of being able to adjust the pinion angle. I don't know what it is until I put the drive shaft in. But we'll know that in the future here. I still have to go through and grease all my fittings and all that stuff, but it's the end of the day. I'm ready to go home. This was the big thing to get it back on the ground. Now, with the 3-way adjustable shocks, for you guys that wouldn't know, on an A-body, G-body, we all know that these cars, when they launch, they really want to torque really bad. I tell you what, let me grab a little demonstration car here. So, we'll grab the wheelies. So, what happens is, when the car goes, it wants to drop this back tire and raise this one. So, the car literally wants to do this, okay? So, how do we fix this problem? We tighten this shock up and we tighten this shock up. We make it to where this one doesn't raise as fast as what this one does. So if this one raises quicker than this one, so instead of doing this, this side's going to raise quicker, we're going to get more of that straight line up front. And then applying pressure here to where it wants to squat this side down, we make this stiffer to squat and this easier to squat. At that point, we start getting more of a straight, you know, wheelie that we want. This car's not going to pull a freaking wheelie. But you start getting it to launch a little more smooth. Now, it's not going to take all the twist out of the car. It's going to help, okay? So just keep that in an understanding. It's going to help. We might throw an airbag in it, but first things first, Let's see what it does with the competition engineering shocks. Those are some of the reasons why I like the shocks. They're cheap and they're effective. Are they as good as the QA ones and all that? No, I've said that before. They're not. But for 70 bucks compared to 300, it's worth it. So that's all done. I hope you guys dig it so far. And yeah, this thing's definitely coming along. I'm happy. I know Joe's happy as well. And then don't forget, we actually have the Drag and Drive event that's coming up. For me, it's going to be this Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So May 30th is Drop the Hammer Drag event. We've never done a drag and drive, so I'm super, super excited. So me and the wife are going to do it, and we are taking the 2000 SVT Ford Lightning. It's got a couple of modifications on it. I'll show you guys that stuff, and I'm going to break the video down into each day because there's going to be so much footage. I'm not going to try to collapse it all together into one great big long hour-and-a-half video because I don't think people are going to sit and watch it. So I'm going to try to take it in more bite-sized chunks. So we'll do a video for day 1, day 2, and then the final day. It'll probably fire off on next Tuesday for that stuff, and then possibly Thursday, and then I'm not sure what day I should do the final on. I'll figure that portion of it out. I'm not too worried about it. So I'm going to go take a look at the Lightning, make sure everything's good and everything's all right. Right now it's put away in storage, so I want to make sure the battery works, all that stuff, put some fresh gas in it, and get everything ready. So we are excited for that. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys, maybe see some of you guys out there. So anyways, I hope to see you guys at the track. Take care, my friends. Stay cool. See ya.